Hey guys and girls, Bored now, back with you. On this video I will be talking about Dexter New Blood, Season 9, Episode 3, and the episode is called Smoke Signals, so full spoilers from the start as always. It's a little bit weird saying Season 9, Episode 3 when it's sort of Dexter New Blood, but technically it is the 9th season of Dexter overall, and it's not really a reboot season, so I'm kind of going to go with Season 9, even though Dexter New Blood, but whatever, that's a bit confusing. And boy, what a hot mess this episode was. It was all over the place. They were going here, there, everywhere, doing different things. There was just no real consistency to anything they were doing. Now obviously they might pay some of it off later and it might make a bit of sense, but at times it just they were just making stuff up out of their arse, really. It's like they sort of put random pieces of a puzzle on the table and just put it in random order, and it's like, okay, this is the plot for the episode. I think one of the things they were definitely doing is that they were setting up all these potential red herrings for the local psychopath who's kidnapping and killing girls. So we actually see the girl from last week who was kidnapped, she actually gets killed. It seems so that the psychopath gets his jollies off releasing them and then shooting them down, so gets a thrill of that. And he's in a hood, of course, so we don't see who he is. We're not going to see that this early, episode 3, but I got the impression they were doing that in this episode, where they were setting up all these potential red herrings. It sort of seemed like potentially this nerdy kid at school who gets bullied at one point by the guys Harrison was hanging out with last week, and Harrison befriends him in this episode. He seems a bit of a psychopath by the end with his sort of psychotic drawing, so it seems like he could be a potential suspect, a red herring maybe. I guess potentially Kurt, the father of Matt, could be a suspect. We know that the billionaire, who again we see in this episode acting a little bit creepy, he's a suspect. I mean, just to sort of sum up how random bits of this episode are, there's this whole sort of subplot where Harrison and Audrey go off into the woods, and their plan is to sort of bury the deer who was killed by Matt in the first episode, and they want to give it a proper burial, and their car breaks down. I mean, that's another thing. Audrey can drive. It seems to be a theme in American sort of shows where, even though she's only, I mean, she could be 17, 18, I guess, but could easily only be 16, and yet she knows how to drive, but whatever. But that's the whole plot, where the car breaks down and Harrison goes to try and get help, conveniently leaving Audrey on her own, and then the billionaire tech guy comes along and sort of invites her into his car. Nothing creepy about that, oh no, but just says, yeah, do you want a place to sit while you wait, that sort of thing. And again, just acting a little bit creepy, a bit underhanded. And another suspect they sort of throw at you in this episode is this really popular podcaster, true crime podcaster, Molly Parker or something or other Parker, beginning with an M. And Dexter mentions at one point how she's been hanging around his shop, sort of buying guns or taking an interest in guns or something. So by the end of the episode, she's a potential suspect. By the way, is anyone else just fed up with the true crime podcast thing? I don't mean fed up in the real sense. I just mean fed up of TV or films sort of using it as a sort of a modern commentary type thing. Because the other thing is, at one point you see this Molly Parker come out, and she says, yeah, I just want to help with the search party, and then she starts flirting with one of the other officers, and I mean, she looks about 20, 21, something like that, and yet she's meant to be this really famous true crime podcaster. I guess it's not impossible, but I don't know, maybe she's meant to be older. But yeah, you get this sort of grab bag of potential suspects. But the episode is a bit of a mess. I think it's better than last week's just because it's not as boring, and there were a couple of entertaining scenes and a couple of nice developments. Obviously the case stuff is sort of the big focus, even though it does jump about a bit all over the place. But so in probably the highlight of the episode, they call him Mr. CSI guy. They actually say that in the episode because they have this what looks like really dated infrared technology of the footage of what happened with Matt in the woods, and they can detect that there's actually someone else in the woods, because it sort of confirms that Matt killed the deer, but it also confirms that there's someone else in the woods at the same time. But wouldn't you know it, there's blind spots on the footage, and one of those blind spots happens to work in Dexter's favour because it doesn't reveal him sort of killing Matt. So very convenient, of course. And Kurt getting pissed off is actually really entertaining. I really like this actor, Clancy Brown. He's been in Lost, he's been in a bunch of other things. He normally plays, shady villain types, and he's very entertaining in this as well, playing the douchey sort of, dad of Matt. And there's a nice back and forth with him and Dexter, actually. So he's good value in this episode. But yeah, when they bring in Mr. CSI analysis guy, he's really entertaining just because he's like this stereotypical big-haired, goofy, nerdy sort of guy who I think as part of the gag they sort of make it look like he's gonna be like a total douchebag and just not be of much use and screw up, but he's actually not. He does like through and analyzes like the two sets of blood and sort of confirms that it appears as though Matt was actually killed. But he probably steals the episode. Once again, Angela's pretty solid in this episode. Another scene I really like is her sort of handing Kurt's ass to him over the phone because Kurt is getting all bent out of shape about, are you doing enough? My son's out there, and being very blasé about him actually committing a crime because, of course, the deer was killed on Native American grounds, and he's being dismissive anyway, considering his son killed an innocent animal. So total douchebag. But that's a good scene actually with them on the phone, because Angela points out to him then, well, he did commit a crime, and it's the sort of crime which he could get a heavy sort of fine for and all the rest. So I really like that scene because she actually uses her sort of official capacity to be like, yeah, in your face, guy. So that's really good. And she actually throws it back at him that, she's got all these volunteers searching the thing and that she's taking it perfectly seriously and doing her job. And that's sort of what he was accusing her of not doing. So that's one of the better scenes in the episode. But yeah, the episode plot-wise, when it comes to this whole sort of like case thing, is a bit like a Christmas cracker sort of puzzle type thing, but where it's sort of here, there, and everywhere. Because at one point, Dexter is looking for a place to store the body. He tries to like hide it in a cave, but then a bear comes out of nowhere and freaks him out, so he can't do it in a cave. And then conveniently by the end, I think, because what happens is they sort of, Angela agrees to work with, Harrison and with Audrey and give the deer like a proper burial, like a proper Native American ritual. And that actually has been one of my favourite things of the opening episodes, is that sort of touch of it being on Native American ground and actually looking at the difference there and the laws. So that's actually something a bit different, which I've enjoyed them exploring. So yeah, you sort of end the episode with, or it's the second from last scene, with them doing this ritual, and it's after that then Dexter suddenly has this sort of light bulb that goes off in his head, where he actually uses like some sort of like a furnace or something to actually destroy the body, like just burn it, goes up in smoke. And he just had the idea because of this ritual, I think. And you're sort of thinking, well, why didn't you think of that before, Dexter? I mean, would that really have been that hard to have like figured out? It just seems like there's been very little thought goes into this episode, or just very sloppy plotting, I think, because the way the episode ends, which is a little bit of a cliffhanger, is that Kurt seems a bit drunk and Dexter like pulls over. I'm not sure why he pulls over. I guess he just wants to keep an eye on him, because the way it's suggesting with the voiceover is almost then Dexter wants to kill Kurt, like he's actually considering it. But I don't know how that would work with his code. But in any case, Kurt sort of says to Dexter, then, my son's alive. I know he's alive. We've been on FaceTime together. And Dexter obviously knows that he's lying because he's just burned Kurt's body, so he can't be alive. But why would he lie? And that's kind of the cliffhanger to the episode. So certainly something to chew on for the next week. So not a bad ending, actually. I'll give them that. The Harrison stuff in this episode is really boring again. I find the actor very bland. Really lacks any sort of charisma or edge, and I think that's part of the problem if they're going to go down the road of, hey, he's another Dexter, he's going to have darkness, he's going to have aggression, and there's so many predictable like hints in this episode, because one of the like officers obviously working the search party, he conveniently is like a wrestling coach at the school, and Harrison's starting school, and he says, I can get you on the wrestling team. And I mean, so Harrison's on the wrestling team, and it just seems like it's the perfect opportunity for Harrison to show his aggressive side. And as I said, there's some more predictably bland sort of teen type drama with him and the bullies. I think, although I quite like Audrey as a character, it sort of makes her look a bit of a weak character just for associating with these guys, because at one point she says to Harrison in the car, then, hey, they're jerks, but sometimes you just grow up with people and you can't escape them. I mean, that is such a weak-ass excuse. I mean, she still doesn't have to hang around with them. Come on, Audrey. Do better. But anyway, there's stuff going on with that where Harrison stands up for this kid who's been catfished, where, like, I think it's Jake or Josh, the name of like the head bully, who like sort of like sends him pictures of this attractive girl and pretends that she's into him, and it's like a whole catfish thing. And later on they turn the tables, and we also see Harrison's aggressive side, like father, like son, I guess, standing up to him. And as I said, it later seems like they were setting, I forget the kid's name, but the sort of the kid who's bullied, I think it's Joseph or something, but they later seem to be setting him up as a potential psychopath, because he's got all these Punisher-like drawings of the bullies like being splattered, which is pretty funny actually. But it does seem like they're maybe setting him up as some sort of potential killer, or at least someone who's very unhinged. And I guess they could do a thing with him and Harrison where he almost goes too far and Harrison steps in, and maybe Harrison is going to be the one who goes too far. But you could see them doing something like that. There's also this random sort of plot with Harrison where when he first arrives, where the principal is like concerned about his grades. He's only just arrived, but she's talking about his past grades. I mean, is this a thing? I mean, it seems a bit random to me, but I guess they say in the episode it's because they're trying to assess his sort of grade level. And in any case, he's taken this test, and conveniently the teacher leaves the room for 15 minutes, and she's come back and he's like completely aced the test. And they're naturally quite suspicious. It's like, well, this is a really high standard test. I mean, would he really do that well? Did he cheat? And they sort of call Dexter down to the school. And again, it's a very random plot, but it's just an example of sloppy plotting, because it's like, well, why would the teacher leave the room anyway? And then Harrison retakes the test, and he aces it again. He does even better, apparently. So it seems like he's some sort of genius. Will they do anything with that? I'm not sure. Possibly not. But that's Dexter New Blood for the week, episode 3. Smoke signals. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Please like and subscribe, and share me out on social media. You can also ding the bell on YouTube for more notifications. I'll be back next week with a review of episode 4. And just a reminder, I've just started a Patreon page. So if you look me up at patreon.com/borednow, you can become a patron for just $1 a month and check out exclusive content. Thanks for listening, and goodbye.